Again, we're talking about the chroma of a color. And when we talk about chroma, we're talking about how intense the color is. Is it more muted, grayed down, or is it real strong color? Like out of the tube is a very high chroma. There's nothing graying it down. It's very strong. The more you mute it with a complementary or a gray color, the less chroma is going to be in it. So chroma has to do with the intensity of the color. Is it more muted or more intense? But the other terms, like value, is strictly the dark and light value, or how dark or light the color is. The hue is what the color is. Is it red, yellow, blue? So chroma is how intense the color is. And that has nothing to do with how dark or light. Because I can have a real light, high chroma color like this, or a darker, high chroma, intense color like the red. So it can be light or dark. Although the more white I add to a color, the less intense it is. So the more white I add to the red, the less intense it's going to be. Because white does kill color. It kind of knocks it down, grays it. Now I have three primary colors here. I have red, yellow, and blue. Blue is down here on the lower right. And I'm going to use the complement of each to gray each other. These columns here, this one right here and this one here, I just did a lighter version of what's next to it. It's basically just three columns. And I have the complement of each color. If we go to the color wheel, the complement of red is green, complement of yellow is violet, and the complement of orange is blue. And if I start with this, the strongest orange, right from the tube, and then I gradually add a little bit of blue. And of the blue, this is the blue I used. It's a ultramarine blue, but I added some white to it. So these two values can be close to the same value, or these two colors, orange and blue. And I add a little bit of blue to the orange until it gradually gets a little grayer in the middle. And then same thing with the blue. It's straight from the tube with white here, and then a little bit of orange until the middle it gets grayer. This is by no means an extensive gray chart. It's got a few grays of each color in there. But same thing with the yellow. The complement of yellow on the color wheel is violet. So straight yellow here, a little bit of violet, more violet, until it gets mostly gray. Then I slowly add more violet, so I have straight violet down here. But it gives you a range of the gray color. Same thing with this one, the red and the green, and in the middle they get the grayest. Because I'm adding a little bit of green as it goes up and a little bit of red as it goes down. So now the colors we use mostly in painting, or the colors that are more natural, are going to be right about in this area. And that's the grayer colors. Outside here they're real strong, intense colors. And they're less natural looking. You don't find as much in the landscape, because even if I have someone with a orange shirt on, it's a really bright orange. The minute I stick him outside to paint him, the orange is affected by the sunlight. It's going to lighten it, so I add more white to it. Maybe a touch of yellow because it's a really warm orange. Or in the shadow, I add a blue-violet to it to cool it down. So in nature, or when you're painting the landscape, nothing is going to be this intense. You don't find, even on a strong autumn day, you don't find leaves straight out of the tube red or orange or yellow. They're slightly muted. And that's where trying to decide on what the chroma is very important. That's where it comes into play. And it can be very simple like this, just that, when I mix something that's yellow, I want to add some violet, or have orange, I want to add a little blue to mute it. Or it can be a lot more complicated. You can have tertiary colors like a yellow blue, or a yellow orange, and then the complement becomes a blue violet. I had to look, I forget. And they get a little more complicated, and you don't have to use the complement. You can add a couple of colors next to the complement. It doesn't gray it as much, but it does mute it some. But this is all to control how strong I want the painting, how strong the color. Sometimes I want muter or more muted or grayer colors in the surrounding areas of the center of interest. And in the center of interest, I want my stronger colors. So I have to know how to decide how to use the color. And rarely, even if I have a bright painting, do I use color straight from the tube. If I mute everything enough, then the color that I want stronger can still be muted, but just not muted as much, and it'll look real intense. So to make something stick out, I don't necessarily make it as bright as I can get it. What I do is I use grayer colors around it, and that makes the color look more muted, or stronger, because all the colors around it are grayer. So as an example here, I'm going to start with this. This is a little study. I think it's 5 by 7, not very big. And here I used a very high chroma, real strong color. I didn't gray anything down. I did consider value. I do want the right value, dark, light, halftone. But I didn't gray anything down. You can see everything screaming at you. The yellow house is really bright, the purple's bright, the green's bright, the yellow-green is bright, the orange is really intense. So it's all just jumping out of the canvas. Nothing harmonizes. So I want to be able to mute it. And I have the same painting here. And I use the same colors. I just added a little bit of the complement. So in the yellow-green, I added the red-violet, a little bit of red-violet. This yellow house, I added a little bit of blue. The orange bushes, I added a touch of blue. The house is actually an orange. Well, I take that back. It might be a yellow, cad yellow light. So I added violet to that. And to the violet, I added a little bit of yellow to gray it. I still wanted the value change, darker here in the roof and lighter there. So the values still have to work, just graying the color a bit more. And this makes the colors harmonize. They work together better. And has a bit more impact on you color-wise. The orange is a bit strong for being way over here. I might have the colors around the center of interest to be stronger. But again, looking at the more intense painting, where the chroma is very high, you can see it doesn't work as well. Everything is kind of garish and jumps out. Now, I don't always have to have everything that gray, although I kind of like that subtle color in there. But I can have some stronger, some grayer. Use a combination of both. And that's generally what you want to do. But value always comes first. I have a painting here by Hansen Puthoff. And you can see the colors are very strong. The reds in here are not grayed very much. The pinks, kind of red-violet back in here, very strong. The blue is very strong. Greens are real strong. The kind of yellow and orange field, real strong color. It's not muted much. There are some grays. There's some grays in this red-violet field. A few grays into this field in here. But the colors are very strong. And this is the same artist here. Not the same painting, but he is the same artist. And you can see now everything is slightly muted. Everything has a little bit of the complement in it, or close to the complement, so that it's not a very intense color. I could say the most intense color are some spots of these reds in here. Maybe some of the blue are a little bit intense, but that's about it. Everything else is very muted. So he's controlling the painting, controlling the intensity of the color to make things really jump out or kind of sink back. Now he could have popped, if I get a yellow here, and this is grayed a little bit, but I could come in here. Let's get that it's a little too much white. And if you got a color just a little bit cleaner in here, not saying what he did is wrong, obviously, But now that yellow looks stronger and brighter because these colors are more muted and a little darker as well, but it's the chroma of the color. This yellow is not that strong, but all the other colors are a lot more muted, so it looks stronger. And you can kind of control the intensity that way. So again, here's his stronger painting. Not much gray anywhere, very intense. Has a lot different feel than that one. More muted. He's thinking more about, in the blue-violet mountains, he is thinking in terms of the complement added to it. So the complement of blue-violet is yellow-orange. So it's got some yellow-orange and blue-violet in there. Now, he also has come back and added some red-violet and some other colors, some greens. But he keeps things pretty muted. Now this is the photograph we're going to use. And it's some barns in Utah. And again, we want to compose. We want to think about what's important in this painting. And half of the painting is this foreground in here. And there's way too much foreground. I don't care about the street. I don't care about a lot of this. So I want to crop it to about here. This is my focal point. Tree, barn, shadow, a little bit of the hay. That's my focal point. So the more I can zoom into that and then gradually decide what I need. So I don't need all this barn over on the left side because it's competing with the shadows in here. And I don't need all of this because it's also competing. I don't want a painting this long, as long as the photograph is. And again, I'm going to crop some of the foreground. About half the foreground I'm going to cut out. And about half the sky. So with this tool I can, and I might do this 3 or 4 times to get the right see how that looks. Now that works pretty good. I have the trees a little centered, so I probably move the tree over to the right just a hair. And also I would have a different shape in that tree. So if I move that, let's get a smaller, here we go. If I move that over, have that tree be right in here instead, I could change the shape to make it more interesting. That helps balance it out. This dark tree is now a little more on the right side, and it balances out all this dark over here. I will have some dark over there, but balances it out a little bit more. Plus I've cut out a lot of sky, a lot of foreground. These can have brush strokes, not value changes or lines, but brush strokes can kind of pull you in this way. And the angles of between the grass and the dirt. But I have a little bit over here, and I might even cut that off even more. I can come in and probably chop it off right about in here, because I don't need all that. That's kind of distracting. So I need to focus on what kind of chroma do I want in these colors to make it work.